Lwandile, for opening up the show for us today. It's, of course, your mid-week show here on EKSE Live. It is, of course, EKSE Live on DSTV channel 263. And as Lwandile has mentioned, we are talking about everything that has to do with animal science. Now, animal science is very broad, and it primarily works with domestic livestock and, of course, the nutrition and breeding. And there's so many different aspects to animal science. Unfortunately for us today, helping us drive this conversation about animal science is, of course, Dr TapiwaMakwavarara, who is a veterinarian, to tell us more about the work that she does and, of course, the industry that she works in. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Thank you for having me over.
Oh, it's so nice. Doctor, I want to ask firstly, you're a vet, right? Can you, for anyone who doesn't really know what a vet is, can you please tell us about what you do?
Okay. So a veterinarian is somebody who is trained and qualified to treat injured animals or diseased animals. So it's either you are playing a role, a curative role that is treating animals or preventing disease in animals. So in other words, I'm a doctor, but for animals.
For animals.
Yeah.
And you know, the topic for today, our core focus is animal science. And of course, you have mentioned that as a vet, you work, you know, with injured animals. Tell us about is there a difference between animal science and the field that you work in? If there is a difference, how do those two integrate?
All right, I think animal science is a component of veterinary medicine. So the profession as a science feeds into veterinary medicine. So if you look at veterinary medicine, like I said, we are responsible for prevention and treatment of diseases. Whilst the animal scientist focuses mainly on livestock breeding, the physiology, meaning the way a normal organism would behave in terms of the tissues and organs, so the functionings or the normal functions of the tissues and the organs, as well as the nutrition for that animal. So animal science would feed into our work in the sense that it contributes to the normal health of an animal through nutrition and genetics.
Oh, that's so amazing. And you do mention a lot of stuff and when it comes to the difference between the two. So I do believe that when it comes to animal science and such stuff, there's so many career paths that someone can actually get to look at, they want to go after. So can you please break it down, which career paths people can look into if they're interested in being a vet or, yeah.
Okay, if you are going to be in animal science, then you could easily go into the pharmaceutical industry. You could also go into the feed industry. You can also go into breeding, where you are contributing to what we call cryopreservation of genetics. So that is breeding of stud animals. You can also work at research institutions. You can also work in government as an animal scientist. And as a veterinarian, our field is also quite diverse. I, for example, am a research veterinarian, but you do have vets that work with companion animals, and by companion animals, I mean your dogs and cats, your exotic pets, which is your rabbits and your guinea pigs.
Yes.
And then you also have people working with horses, and you have people working with production animals, which would be your food-producing animals, your cattle, your sheep, and your poultry, which is your chickens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's so many, as you've mentioned now, there's so many career paths that one could take. But when we, you know, enter into a field, it's obviously because we want to ensure that, you know, we have a goal that we want to achieve, you know, at some point, an object of the career. For example, the law is to serve people, you know, maybe with entertainment, it's to entertain people. What would you say is, for you, the goal, the end goal, rather, for many people that are working within the field?
I think our field is health, and I will speak about the concept of One Health. So health for one is health for all, and One Health really looks at the health of animals and human beings and the environment together. So if you look at it, these things are interdependent, they're not independent. So you cannot really have human health in the absence of animal ill health or at the detriment of the environment. So we are all working collaboratively to achieve One Health, which is to ensure that the environment is healthy.
Yes.
Human beings and animals are healthy. Because if you also look at it phylogenetically, every mammal is seemed to have derived from one common ancestor.
Yes, yes.
So there's quite a lot of similarities between ourselves and animals. You can see the resemblance almost between human beings, Homo sapiens, and primates, But we also have some genetic similarities with rodents, with laboratory animals. That's why we do most of our laboratory or biomedical research in rodents.
Yeah.
So you can find that in as much as we are unlike, we are very alike.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the sharing of diseases, how coronavirus was jumping from humans into your dogs and cats, into the big cats. Let's talk about diseases where you've got camels passing diseases to human beings. We talk about the environment, the accumulation of pesticides into the environment and how it affects our wild raptors, our vultures, which not only contribute to ecotourism, but they also play a role in removing toxins in the environment. I'll give you a classic example about how I would call it human practices or anthropological practices, where our human behavior influences animal and human health. So we had a situation, I think decades ago, where animals were treated with a painkiller known as diclofenac. And when vultures fed on the carrion or scavenged on these animals that had been treated with diclofenac, it resulted in the population decline of the vultures. So we also have vultures eating carrion from animals that have been treated with antibiotics, and we're getting antibiotic resistance in these vultures or a change in the microbiota of these vultures. So in summary, all I'm saying is that there's quite an intricate link between humans, animals, and the environment, and one cannot exist in perfect health without the other.
What's so amazing, man, I like in everything that you just mentioned, it's basically, you guys sound like you are people that are in the front line in the war, because you basically, everything just comes to you guys. It's big, like population control, you know that everything just comes to you guys. And in terms of this, because I do believe there's so many challenges like you just mentioned, so take us through some of the challenges that if I want to be a vet, what should I expect going into it?
Okay, the veterinary profession is really a profession of passion. And I always tell everybody that if you are passionate about what you love, you will be good at it. So in terms of a degree or a qualification, it's very taxing. It involves a lot of hard work, a lot of study. It's quite also complex in the sense that we deal with multiple species. So right from graduate level, you are learning about the anatomy, physiology, and biology of different species of animals. Your companion animals, production animals, your poultry, your reptiles. And more after you graduate, you go into research and you work with laboratory animals. That's another species on its own. So it's also the challenge of dealing with a species that does not communicate verbally. So you got to read very much into those cues, getting to understand the language of each individual species of animal, interpreting what it means in terms of disease. So I think without passion, you may not be able to, dwell into the tasks that involve the work of a veterinarian. It's also dirty work, in quotes. We work with animals in the field. Of course, we do work in a research environment, which is of course controlled and clean.
And of course, Dr. Tapiwa, unfortunately, I have to cut you off right now, but we do continue the conversation after the air break. You guys want to make sure we'll say but after the air break, we're still in conversation with Dr. Tapiwa about everything that has to do with animal science. Stay tuned.